right, we have part 2. Walter's Desert Adventure. Can you believe it? Thank you, Sherry, for the book. Thank you, Lori, Lorna, and Laura. Sarah, thank you all for coming. Let's get started for the new babies. And guess what? We have the autographs. I have Walter's personal autograph. Brad and Kelly's autograph right here. I bet you don't have that. We have it at Donkey and Drive Rescue. It was a new day. There were big white fluffy clouds in the sky, and the sun was shining brightly over the mountains of Oatman. Walter the donkey lived there with Brad and Kelly Blake and their 4 dogs. The Blakes adopted Walter after he was left alone in the desert by his mama. Kelly and Brad were ready to start the day. Kelly fed the dogs while Brad grabbed his cowboy hat and some treats for Walter and headed out the door. Walter was in the front yard waiting for Brad. "Good morning, buddy," Brad said cheerfully, feeding him his treat. "Another day in paradise, isn't it, Walter?" he asked while patting him on the head and scratching his ears. "Like that. Yeah, that's the ear scratch." The dogs came running outside to be with Brad and Walter. They wanted to play too and began to jump around the yard with Walter. All of a sudden, Walter stopped playing and his ears perked up. He saw donkeys walking by his house. These donkeys were different. They were wild and lived in the desert. Walter was a big pet and lived in a house. Walter wondered what it would be like to be a wild donkey. "Yeah, you see, Walter?" Brad waved to the donkeys as they walked into town. Walter went back to playing in the yard with the dogs. Panzer, Athena, Luger, and Charlie. Suddenly there was a loud crash. A gust of wind blew the front gate open. Walter got startled and ran out the gate. He glanced back and saw the dogs were right behind them. Walter and the dogs were heading out to the desert. What adventures would they find? Walter ran ahead of the dogs and found his favorite spot for his dirt bath. He's silly, ain't he? He loved his dirt baths. After a few minutes of rolling around in the dirt, a beautiful butterfly caught his attention. Yes. You like butterflies? I like butterflies. Walter chased the butterfly into the desert. When he stopped, he looked around and saw the dogs were gone. He wondered where they were. Walter was all alone in the desert again, boys. Look at Walter. Look at him. I'm not Walter. That's Walter. Did the dogs go home? Walter was worried. He was scared and didn't know if he would see his family again. Look, he's scared. Poor boy. Walter continued to walk in the desert until he became tired. He could barely keep his eyes open. He just wanted to sleep. Walter found a big tree and fell asleep under the tree. "Walter, wake up," a strange voice said. Walter opened one eye and he looked around. He saw a white cloud with an old donkey standing in front of it. "I'm your Grandpa Duke. Don't be scared, for I'm the guardian spirit who watches over all the donkeys. I will not hurt you. I'm here to help you." "You have come too far off your path and are lost," Duke said. "The desert can be fun, but also dangerous. I will teach you as we get you home." Walter was excited. They walked down the path in the direction of Walter's home. His Grandpa Duke pointed out the different trees and cactus and plants in the desert. Walter even saw birds chirping in the trees, rabbits under the bushes, and a lizard running up a log. There was even a snake that slithered away. Ooh. Yeah. Oh, next page. Next page. Okay. Walter stopped and smiled at his grandpa. He was having a wonderful time, but he missed his family. Grandpa Duke saw that Walter was homesick, and it was time to go. You are safe now, said Grandpa Duke. Walter could see his house and the dogs in the distance. They were still playing, and he said, I must leave you and get back to my home in the sky. Don't be sad. I will always be with you. As a tear ran down Walter's face, and just like that, Grandpa Duke crossed back over the Rainbow Bridge. Walter stood alone, and he wasn't afraid anymore. Grandpa Duke taught him to be brave and strong. And the thing about Walter, he was an orphan too, just like you. Yeah. He's a special donkey, just like you. Walter joined the dogs and they headed home. Panzer barked as they walked through the front gate. Brad and Kelly ran outside. Walter, Brad yelled. He and Kelly ran over and gave Walter a big hug. They were glad to see Walter and the dogs back home. Brad sat down and Walter nuzzled up next to him. They watched as the sun began to set. It was a fun day filled with adventure, but he was happy to be home with his family. Walter knew Grandpa Duke would always be watching over him. The end, boys. It's time for bed. Yes, it's time for bed. I think they enjoyed it. Thank you, everyone, for your support. We love you. Hee-haw. Hee-haw.